Right, so we've got Kevin Mitchell here who's commissioned me to do a piece of Derek Hawksworth and Frank Worthington, so it's quite a unique piece. I think the football kits are quite striking and fashionable towards the eras that these two gentlemen played for Bradford City and Huddersfield. So Kevin, thanks for commissioning me to paint this. If you could just talk us a little bit about, through why you thought this commission would be suitable for your home for one, and what brought this, for me to paint it for you.
Well, it's a bit self-indulgent, but I have the privilege of conducting the services for both Frank and Derek, which from a personal point of view is, as I've just said, an absolute privilege. But aside from that, you and I both know each other. I've commissioned yourself to do a number of other paintings. So from my point of view, it was a no-brainer, and what you've produced with Frank and Derek, especially on one canvas, is, as we've just discussed actually, atmospheric. It captures both men in a positive fashion, but equally we have to respect the fact that they're both sadly no longer with us, but their memory will remain, and it will certainly remain in my home for as long as it may be. And as far as I'm concerned, what you've produced is just awesome.
Thanks. It's quite humbling for myself, because obviously you knew both Frank and Derek, but for me personally, because I was brought up living close to Derek, and then having family connections, and my granddad actually being a very good friend with Derek, and ended up being one of his big drinking partners.
Well, I am of a certain age, but I only just remember Derek, if I'm being truthful. I have, again, the good fortune to do some work at Bradford City without going into too much detail, but one of my best memories was Frank sat with me, I can't even remember which game it was, and for 90 minutes it was just as though it was one of my best pals. It was down to earth, it was very friendly, it was informative, but just such a nice, genuine bloke. And as we all know, one of life's true characters. So for me to be asked to conduct his service, as with Derek, it is just simply, and I use that word again, a privilege. So for what you've produced, to me, is very special.
I think that's the thing, we all gravitate to footballers of that era. They seem to have more, I wouldn't say more time, but it did come across that they had more time for the genuine fan.
Well, I think you're right, actually. I mean, football's different now to what it was in a different era. And I think it's important, now if we're talking football here, Paul, both Frank and Derek were skillful players. They weren't overly aggressive, albeit they were strong. I know Derek in particular was quite a big, strong fella. But they played in an era when you defenders or midfielders, whoever it was, could actually target a skillful player and get away with a lot more than they can nowadays. So, putting aside to the skill that they had, they were actually very strong in their own right, both physically and mentally. And again, from another era and from a personal point of view, that's where my memories are of players like Derek, like Frank, and they will live in my memory forever. And what you produced is something that I'll look at every single day and I'll enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, the enjoyment and pleasure from a piece of artwork. And obviously looking back on the times of, obviously we neither of us probably we never got to see Derek play, but I mean I were in Derek's company at a sad occasion about 3 or 4 years ago. Won't go into too much details of where it was, but it was a sad occasion. But Derek was the usual kind, considerate, and just a total gentleman. And it was such an honour to meet him. And obviously, it sadly passed away a few months ago. But to be able to paint that for me was really special. Frank, I'd never had the chance to meet Frank, but obviously that goal he scored for Bolton Wanderers will live long in everyone's memory, the turn and the volley.
It does. There's a but here, Paul, and the but is that Frank, I've just touched on it, played in an era when people, make it difficult for him. He made his name eventually at Leicester. He played for England 9 times, I think, but he actually initially started at Huddersfield Town, and so really people forget that people like Frank Worthington, and I'm speaking about Frank more than I am Derek, simply because I can remember him better. And Frank played for Huddersfield Town when it was difficult to get in the first team. So to be at the level that he was, he worked hard, he was fit, he was strong. Apart from natural ability, you don't all of a sudden become a top professional footballer without giving everything you've got. And people should never forget that. The image of Frank Worthington is of a bit of a playboy at times, a bit of a character. He was also not just a good footballer, he was a dedicated professional. Now you talk about Derek, I do vaguely remember him playing actually, but I've spoken to people, David Markham for example, from the Bradford TNA, who was more perhaps older than myself, nearer to Derek's age, spoke about Derek with enormous respect, and as you just touched on, not as a good footballer, but as a gentleman, as someone who cared about the game, cared about people, gave others time. And David made a very good point, and he said that it will be interesting. I think it cost £15,000 when he moved. I can't remember, it was Sheffield to Huddersfield, but he did have a fee of £15,000 on his head.
He did, yeah.
So if you think about that now, what would Derek have been worth in today's football? It would have been worth a lot.
Well, I know his goal scoring record was it 1 in 3 at Sheffield United?
Right, yeah.
So I mean, you're looking at a player of that calibre playing in the top flight. I know he had a lot of success getting promoted to the top tier with Sheffield United. So yeah, that Derek's value would have been multi-millions. And when we're looking at Sky TV today, we're talking about Ronaldo getting 25 million after tax. It's just mind-blowing. But
and the other thing is, we can be glib when we talk about professionalism, but just to show you how professional Derek was, and I was told this, I didn't know this until somebody pointed it out, that he used to be majorly upset if someone didn't cross the ball correctly, as he used to do. He used to make sure that set pieces, free kicks, corners, we all make mistakes, but generally it mattered to him, the precision, the accuracy, and he wasn't best pleased if somebody didn't attain to his standards.
A little bit like Bobby Campbell then.
Yeah.
Bobby was a friend of mine as well, so it's I think I'll be putting Bobby onto canvas soon.
Well, if Mark Ellis didn't cross it properly, he went over to Mark.
He did.
And give him a crack.
We've had all those stories from Bobby himself.
Oh yeah.
So that's great to. Obviously, it's been a real honour for me to do this portrait for you, Kevin. And obviously, you've got other pieces within your home that I can. This is obviously going to take pride of place, I'm sure.
It's an honour for me to ask you to paint such a wonderful painting on canvas. It's absolutely superb, and I'm thrilled to bits. Simple as.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.